Hello everyone. Today we are going to study now the next topic of the chapter 2 of democratic politics, that is constitutional design. So today we are going to study how Indian constitution was framed. So like South Africa, India's constitution was also drawn under very difficult circumstances, like how in South Africa they have to make adjustment between two races, white and black people. So India has the diversity. The making of constitution for such a huge and diverse country like India was not that easy task. At that time the people of India were also have been transferred from the status of subject मतलब एक राजा की प्रजा थी ना that time the Britishers were ruling, so they were treating Indian people as the subjects, प्रजा की तरह उनको डील करते थे because they were the monarch, and to now the people have been turned into citizens where the government was ruling over the citizens. So the country was born through a partition on the basis of religious differences, and you know that the second problem was the country was born means through a partition कि we got a freedom independent country, but that was born through a partition of India and Pakistan on on the religious basis, and this was a traumatic experience. Traumatic means deeply disturbing. Fine. बहुत ही disturbing experience was there for the people of India and Pakistan both. So at least 10 lakh people were killed on both the sides of the border in the partition related violence, which violence was occurred during that time due to the partition. And there was another problem that British has left it to the rulers of the princely states. When India got independent, that time India, some of the states were ruled by the kings. There were some kingdoms also which were not under the Britishers, so they left this decision to these kings only, or the prince only, ki whether they wanted to be independent kingdoms or they wanted to be in the Indian Union. So this was also a problem for India. So now merger of these princely states was a difficult and uncertain task. अब इन states को अपनी country में मिलाना, जो कि ruled by the kings or they which were the kingdoms, that was a very difficult and uncertain task. Uncertain मतलब very अनसर्टन का मतलब है जो नहीं हो सकता है टास्क, अनहोनी मतलब जिसको हम कह सकते हैं कि ऐसा होने वाला टास्क. एंड व्हेन द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन वाज बीइंग रिटन, द फ्यूचर ऑफ द कंट्री डिड नॉट लुक एज सिक्योर एज इट डज टुडे. और जब ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन फ्रेम किया जा रहा था, लिखा जा रहा था, दैट टाइम फ्यूचर ऑफ द कंट्री वाज नॉट लुक दैट सिक्योर हाउ इट वाज now today, how it is now today. And the makers of the constitution has anxieties about the present and the future of the countries. Okay, they were not clear about the India's future and even the present. Now how they started then forming the constitution, the Part-2 constitution. Despite all these difficulties, there was one big advantage for the makers of Indian constitution. That was, unlike South Africa, they did not have to create a consensus मतलब agreement between the people about a democratic India should look like, because already India was ruled by the democratic government, that is the Britishers. They were ruling the country with the democratic principles. So India didn't face that problem which the South Africa faced, ki which type of government has to be adopted in their country. We were already knowing that we are going to adopt a democratic setup in our country. Our national movement was not merely a struggle against a foreign rule, because we were much of this consensus had evolved during the freedom struggle only, ki what type of government we are going to adopt and we are going to choose, because our freedom struggle was not only struggle for independence, but also we wanted to transform our society and politics. We also wanted to bring changes into our society and even in the political system. So there were sharp differences of the opinion within the freedom struggle also, and about the path India should take out of the independence. Because that time, as I told you that when freedom struggle were also going on in the country, so that time also there was the people, some people, those who think that ki by that satyagrah and truth and non-violence policies also the freedom could be bring in the country. But some people like Bhagat Singh revolutionaries, they thought that ki the force is very important to fight against the Britishers. So that was the difference of opinion. So at far back as 1928, Motilal Nehru and 8 other Congress leaders, they drafted a constitution. 1928 में भी Motilal Nehru and other Congress leaders have drafted a constitution for India. In 1931, the resolution at the Karachi session. You know that Indian National Congress session was there every year. So in that Karachi में जब ये session हुआ, that time Indian National Congress dwelt on how independent India's constitution look like. उन्होंने एक framework बनाया कि when India would get independence, the how the India's constitution would look like. But these documents were committed to the इंक्लूजन ऑफ यूनिवर्सल एडल्ट फ्रेंचाइज, और उस डॉक्यूमेंट्स में पहले से ही यूनिवर्सल एडल्ट फ्रेंचाइज को इंक्लूड कर लिया गया था. दैट इज़ द राइट टू वोट टू every adult citizen, right to freedom, and even equality was also, and protecting the rights of the minorities were also included in that Constitution of Independent India. Thus some basic values, जो some basic values थी that are already accepted by all the leader much before the कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली. कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली के बनने से बहुत टाइम पहले ही ये सारी चीज़ें थी हमारे इंडियन लीडर्स ने, जिन्होंने कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बनाना था, दे हैव ऑलरेडी एक्सेप्टेड. एंड फेमिलियरिटी विद पॉलिटिकल इंस्टीट्यूशन ऑफ कॉलोनियल रूल आल्सो हेल्प डेवलप एन एग्रीमेंट ओवर द इंस्टीट्यूशनल डिज़ाइन. इवन ऑलरेडी वी वर फेमिलियर विद द पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम विच वॉज adopted by the Britishers for India, through which they were ruling over India. That is the democratic setup. So that is why it was not difficult for India to decide its institutional design. So British rule had given voting rights not only to the few. On the basis of British has introduced very weak legislatures. Elections were held in the British rule had given voting rights only to few. You know that when Britishers were ruling, the voting rights were given only to those people, those who were holding the properties. Fine. So on that basis the British has introduced very weak legislature. So हम कह सकते हैं कि उसके basis पर the legislature was very weak. And in 1937 in provincial legislature, ministers all over British India, elections were held, and there were not fully democratic government. These were not fully democratic government, because when we say any government democratic, when the right to vote is given to each adult and they are participating into the formation of the government. So there were not fully democratic, we can say that, those governments which were formed just because of the vote of the few people. So these were the experience gained by the Indians in the working of legislative institutions also helped the Indian to choose the democratic setup for the country. So that is why the Indian Constitution adopted many institutional details and procedures from colonial laws like Government of India Act. इसीलिए Government of India Act 1935 जो आप 8th में पढ़ कर आए हो, उसमें से भी some of the procedures they have taken. Years of thinking and deliberation. Deliberation मतलब long discussions के बाद the framework of Indian Constitution was formed. And our leaders gained confidence to learn from other countries, and even our leaders gained confidence because they have also read the constitutions of other countries, but not on our own terms. Many of other leaders were inspired by the ideals of French Revolution. You know that French Revolution had given us, you read the first chapter of history in which you have read that कि French Revolution has given us the right to freedom, equality and fraternity. So due to these all things, the Bill of Rights in US, ये सारी चीज़ों से इंस्पायर होके they have also included even the socialist revolution, which is the second chapter of your history you are going to study, the Russian Revolution. These all inspired many Indians to think to shape such a system which will suit to the diverse population of the country. And yet they were not simply imitating what others had done. And don't think that if they were reading the constitutions and even the studying the constitution of other countries, it means that कि they have imitated या फिर नकल की उन्होंने उनके constitutions की. No, they have only chosen or they have also only selected some of the provisions of their constitutions which were also suitable to our country. So now what was the Constituent Assembly? You know that Constituent Assembly is the group of the people, those who were chosen or elected to frame the constitution. Who then were the makers of Indian Constitution? So you will find here very brief sketch of some of the leaders who played an important role in making the constitution. You can see these pictures also of these people are also given on the sides of the book. These were the people in the Constituent Assembly, and the drafting of document called the constitution was done by an assembly of elected representatives. और ये drafting जो थी document की constitution की, that was done by an assembly of elected representatives called the Constituent Assembly. And elections to the Constituent Assembly was held in July 1946 when India was not partitioned, and that time elections were held for the Constituent Assembly के members के लिए. First meeting was held in December 1946, and soon after the country was also divided into India and Pakistan. So the Constituent Assembly was also divided because it was framed before partition of India and Pakistan. So that is why when India and Pakistan got partition, the Constituent Assembly was also divided into the Constituent Assembly of India and Constituent Assembly of Pakistan. The Constituent Assembly that wrote the Indian Constitution had 299 members. The Assembly adopted the Constitution on 26 November 1949. They were over with it, but it came into effect. Officially कब उन्होंने इसको use करना शुरू किया? They started ruling the country as per the Constitution on 26 January 1950. That is why we are celebrating this day as the Republic Day every year. Now why should we accept the constitution made by the assembly more than 50 years ago? क्यों हम आज भी वही constitution जो 50 years back frame किया गया था, आज भी हम उसी constitution को follow क्यों कर रहे हैं? What is the reason? What are the good points of this constitution? So we have already noted one reason above. The constitution does not reflect the views of its members alone. It expresses a broad consensus of its टाइम कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन जो है वो जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूंट असेंबली के मेंबर्स है उनके व्यूज़ को रिफ्लेक्ट नहीं करता, बल्कि उस समय के कंसेंसस का मतलब होता है लोगों के ओपिनियन और उस समय के जो एक्सपीरियंसेस थे, उस समय की जो ज़रूरत थी, उसके अकॉर्डिंगली दे हैव फ्रेम द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. मेनी कंट्रीज ऑफ द वर्ल्ड हैड टू री राइट देयर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन अफ्रेश बिकॉज द बेसिक रूल्स वर नॉट एक्सेप्टेड टू ऑल मेजर सोशल ग्रुप्स और पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज़. कई ऐसी कंट्रीज़ है वर्ल्ड में जिन्होंने अपनी कंट्री के कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को फिर से लिखा बिकॉज उसमें बेसिक रूल जो उन्होंने बनाए थे अपने कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के, उसमें कंट्री के सारे सोशल ग्रुप्स और पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज़ वर नॉट included. But our constitution is the unique constitution of the world in which in the very beginning only all the social group, मतलब जितने हमारी सोसाइटी के सोशल ग्रुप्स थे अगर वो मेजॉरिटी में थे तो उनके भी राइट्स का ख्याल रखा गया. इफ़ दे आर इन लेस नंबर देन आल्सो देयर राइट्स वर रिजर्व्ड इन द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. So second reason for accepting the constitution is that the constitution assembly represented the people of India. There was no universal adult franchise at that time, so the constituent assembly could not have been chosen directly by all the people of India. उनका ये कहना है कि ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूंट असेंबली जो थी दैट वाज नॉट चोजन और इलेक्टेड बाय दी ऑल द पीपल ऑफ द कंट्री, बट दीज वर चोजन बाय ओनली द सम ऑफ द रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स ऑफ द पीपल. Because that time universal adult franchise, that is the right to vote to every adult citizen of the country, was not there. So that is why these constituent assembly members were elected by the, not directly elected by the people, but they were elected by the members of the प्रोविंशियल लेजिस्लेचर. जो उस समय के प्रोविंसेस में लेजिस्लेटिव मेंबर्स थे, दे हैव इलेक्टेड एंड दिस एंश्योर्ड अ फेयर जोग्राफिकल शेयर ऑफ द मेंबर्स फ्रॉम ऑल रीजन्स ऑफ द कंट्री. एंड दिस वे वी कैन सी दैट कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली में द मेंबर्स वर फ्रॉम द ईच एंड एवरी रीजन ऑफ द country so that they can represent their region and they can also frame the laws for by seeing the problems of their own region. So assembly was dominated by the Indian National Congress, the party that led India's freedom struggle. But this assembly constituent assembly was dominated, मतलब उसमें सबसे ज़्यादा इन्फ्लुएंस किसका था? इंडियन नेशनल कांग्रेस का, which was the major party in the freedom struggle. So but the Congress itself included a variety of political groups and opinions. And definitely assembly had many members who did not agree with the Congress. आपको भी पता है बेटे, एज आई टोल्ड यू दैट कि two groups were there in India. One were the moderates, those who fought for the freedom struggle, and second one was of the revolutionaries. So if that time they were not agree with the opinion of each other, so how can be in the assembly also? So that was also one of the problem. In social terms too, assembly represented members from different languages. Even in the social terms also, assembly ने different members, different languages के, different caste के, different classes के, different religion, different occupation से सभी members को उसमें assembly में include किया, so that हर कोई अपने अपने group की problems को मद्देनज़र रखते हुए keep it in view and then they can frame the laws for their own group. So even if the constituent assembly was elected by universal adult franchise, its composition would not have been very different. वो कहते हैं कि अगर ये elected represent, अगर ये constituent assembly अगर हर मेंबर भी यूनिवर्सल एडल्ट फ्रेंचाइज के थ्रू भी इलेक्ट करता तब भी कोई डिफरेंस नहीं होता, क्योंकि अब भी इसके कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली के सारे मेंबर जो थे वो डिफरेंट रीजन, डिफरेंट लैंग्वेजेस, डिफरेंट कास्ट, डिफरेंट क्लास से इलेक्ट किए गए थे. सो फाइनली वी कैन सी दैट the manner in which the constituent assembly worked gives a sanctity to the constitution. The way in which the constituent assembly worked day and night to frame the constitution, so that is why the constituent assembly worked in a very systematic way. Openly means nothing was hidden, and concessional means they have thought for a longer period of time and they deliberately discussed each and every concept and then they framed the laws. First some basic principles were decided, कुछ बेसिक प्रिंसिपल्स उन्होंने डिसाइड किए एंड दे एग्रीड अपॉन. एंड देन ड्राफ्टिंग कमेटी के चेयरमैन थे डॉक्टर B.R. अम्बेडकर. ही प्रिपेयर्ड अ ड्राफ्ट कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन फॉर डिस्कशन. उन्होंने पहले ड्राफ्ट बनाया कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का फॉर डिस्कशन. सेवरल राउंड्स ऑफ थॉरो डिस्कशंस टुक प्लेस इन ऑन द ड्राफ्ट कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, क्लॉज बाय क्लॉज. हर ड्राफ्ट कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के हर क्लॉज को डिस्कस किया गया. एंड मोर देन 2000 अमेंडमेंट. 2000 अमेंडमेंट्स मीन्स 2000 अमेंडमेंट्स का मतलब होता है चेंजेस वर कंसीडर आल्सो. उसमें चेंजेस भी जैसे जैसे वो डिस्कस कर रहे थे उनको लगता था अगर किसी क्लॉज को चेंज करने की जरूरत है, साइड बाय साइड दे वर चेंजिंग आल्सो. एंड द मेंबर्स deliberated for 140 days. 114 days they have discussed and spread over 3 years, and every document presented and every word spoken in the Constituent Assembly has been recorded. जो भी discussion हो, even single से single word was recorded, and these recordings were called Constituent Assembly debates. And when printed, these debates were 12 bulky books. जब इन सारी इनकी deliberations को, इनकी discussions को प्रिंट किया गया, so these were the 12 bulky volumes, and these debates provide the rationale behind every provision of the constitution. मतलब एक बहुत ही fair उन्होंने discussions और provisions बनाए हैं constitution के, and these were used to interpret the meaning of the constitution, जो कि constitution के meaning को properly हर इंसान को समझने में आसानी देते हैं.